song that we're singing. Come on, get happy. A whole lot of loving is what we'll be bringing. We'll make you happy.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussion in the multiverse. For the first time in ATL, my name is Adam Portrais, and I'm joined by Sean Keenan.
Heidi thinks this might be Adam's best song choice to intro a show.
And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and life is an ever-swirling toilet that just won't flush.
Oh, what are you reading my memoirs over there? We are. Ooh, my headset's going all over the place. I hope it sounds fine. Maybe not. Hold on, we'll figure it out.
It's good. It's good.
But yes, we are back, everybody, and yeah, I've moved and stuff. So if things sound a little bit wonky on the audio side, I'm going to try to work that out and everything. And hey, maybe every now and then, if he's not too awful busy, maybe even Sean Keenan will come back in studio every now and then. We can have some real quality audio. But who's to say?
I'd love to. I'm not in Atlanta right now.
Well, I said when you're back, when you're around. Mm-hmm. But yeah, man, we got a lot of good stuff, and so we've had a little bit of time off here. We recorded back-to-back episodes. Now, if you're one of our people over at Patreon, you actually got those episodes back-to-back. You didn't have to wait that extra week like other folks did because, you're special. And we do have many of those people, and we'd like to thank some of them. First of all, Mr. Kevin Jones, he has joined up at the $5 a month. So, Kevin, welcome aboard, my friend. He also joined up on the Film Fund, which I got news at the end of the show about that. So, it's good stuff. But, Kevin, man, thanks for joining on and coming a part of the crew. And, of course, when you do that, you do get the pre-show and a little bit of post-show. Every now and then we'll do like a special edition, give you some other things and whatnots and all that kind of good jazz. And, of course, the best part is you get to vote every single month on a movie that we cover on this program. The power is in your hands, ladies and gentlemen. So head on down to patreon.com/thefilmfind or do that one too. But the Hero Movie Pod, HMP. I'm doing 5 things at once here. I'm used to having another television. I'm trying to do 4 things at once. I told you, new setup. It's all kind of wonky and weird. My mind goes in weird places. Patreon.com/HMP. And join in the fun, man. We'd really appreciate you when you do that stuff, man. Also, we want to take a little time out because it's been a while. And we do have an iTunes review, everybody. This is a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And it is from The Walking Dead PH1 and is entitled A Podcast You Won't Regret Listening to. And it reads as follows. Let's start again. I have always turned my back on podcasts because I thought they would be boring. Boy, have these guys proved me wrong. I've binged all episodes for this and your other shows, and it's worth every second. These are the kind of guys who would understand why I still have a VHS player just because I refuse to throw away my original copy of Howard the Duck. The Sylvester Stallone connections crack me up, and I always appreciate the comic book connections. Great job, guys. Keep up the good work. I am a massive fan, and we are a massive fan of you, The Walking Dead PH1. And we are also a massive fan of anybody that goes over to the iTunes there, drops us a 5-star review, a.k.a. Humdinger.
Humdinger.
And we really like that. It helps things, man. And we we saw one earlier that I guess somebody posted up on the Canadian thing. And like we said, if you were outside of the U.S. and you do a review on iTunes, let us know or copy and paste it and shoot it our way and everything. We will say this. We saw one from Canada. It was a great 5-star review, but oh my Lord, it was very, very long, and it was pretty much an email in review form for some reason, telling us about how wrong we were about Star Wars. But it was a blast to read.
I thought that they made some really valid points.
There were some,
even with those points being made, I still love The Last Jedi. I love that movie.
I think we all said, it's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but hey, man,
I think it needs more green milk straight from the teat, personally.
Yeah, that's pretty much my philosophy on just about everything is more green milk, please.
Is that the grossest thing we've ever seen in Star Wars? I gotta say it is.
Well, it's not only that it was just that, it really was the kind of like the sipping, the like getting caught in the mustache, getting it off, and then just looking at her straight in the eye while she did while he did it. It's like, yeah, it was like that was the creepy part.
And the look on the animal's face also while it's all going down.
He's like, oh Jesus, it's Friday again, isn't it?
The collective footage from all the Star Wars properties was about to be destroyed, and I could only save one scene. That's the scene I'm saving.
Luke, it's like, no, I am your father. Nah. Put that on the firing squad. Give me that green milk.
Yeah.
And I just wonder, is the green like the low fat, or is that like skim, or what's the difference between the blue and the green? One would think the green would be spoiled.
Blue.
I don't know. But we do appreciate you guys dropping over to iTunes there, giving us that 5-star review. Because we've got a lot of listeners, we're up to like 120 some odd reviews at this point. They don't come as fast and furious as they used to, but we always appreciate that when you do, man. And if you're new here, take 2 seconds out. And even if you're, a Google person, we understand. We get that. It's no big deal.
Yeah.
But let's do this, shall we? We've got a show today. I don't even think we said technically what we're doing. We're going to be talking about the new show that's on SYFY right now, that for some reason now is spelled SYFY. Don't know why. I think drugs were involved in that. But we're going to be reviewing the first 4 episodes of Happy. And yeah, that's a comic book property. And of course, Bruce is going to handle that for us. But let's go ahead and take a listen to the trailer for Happy.
My life is an ever-swirling toilet that just won't flush. I don't think I can die.
Hard to believe this piece of shit used to be the best detective in the whole department.
I died. I really did it.
Clear.
Perfect.
Hey, mister, come on, snap out of it. Hey, can you see me? Whoa, yeah, you can see me.
What the hell?
I'm happy. The happy horse so full of fun, of course. It's plain to see it's fun to be happy. Here comes the fun.
You're not real.
I'm an imaginary friend. I'm Haley's imaginary friend. Come with me. She's the sweetest little girl in the whole world. And you're the only one that can help me save her.
I am going to remove your penis in thin slices, like salami.
It's gonna take you a long time. If you know what I mean. He knows what I mean.
Are we the best team or what?
The question you gotta ask yourself, do you feel lucky?
Whoops. I pooped. You are really bad at driving.
Disagree. Look at all the traffic we avoided. Merry Christmas.
All right, that is the trailer for Happy. We're going to be reviewing the first 4 episodes. Here's the IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. An injured hitman befriends his kidnapped daughter's imaginary friend, a perky blue flying unicorn. Boy, that's really just kind of getting to the meat and potatoes of it there, isn't it, IMDb? Starring one Christopher Maloney, Richie Coster, Lily, I don't have my glasses on here, I'm sorry. Majordic, Patton Oswalt, and more. Bruce, I think a lot of people do not realize that this here is a comic book property, but let's get to it, shall we?
Bruce's comic book connection.
See, I've almost got it all together.
Getting better, man. Getting better. Well, Grant Morrison is a Scottish comic book writer who has gone insane since the time he started writing comics. and by insane, I don't mean eccentric or lovably off kilter. I mean, he has political debates with rolls of toilet paper in airport bathrooms. I mean, he stares up at the sky and shouts, "I see you reading me. You think I don't know I'm only a comic book character, but the joke's on you because I'm fully aware I'm fictional." To be honest, I don't have any evidence to support those allegations, but I strongly suspect it. Why do I suspect it? Well, because the last Grant Morrison comic I read, which was the final issue of Multiversity for those keeping track of my reading habits at home. And by the way, I dress like a nun when I read comics, so I have a closet full of reading habits. Anyway, the last comic I read by Grant Morrison made me feel like I had accidentally overdosed on Robitussin. And if you've never accidentally overdosed on Robitussin, let me tell you what it feels like. Weird. You don't feel sick and you don't feel high per se, but you feel like you're having an out-of-body experience. And you know why? Because Robitussin contains dextromethorphan, which is also a dissociative veterinary anesthetic. That's right. Somewhere somebody said, you know what's good for a cold? Doggy PCP. So let's package that crap and sell it for $8 a bottle. So that's the best way to describe most of Grant Morrison's recent writing. It can facilitate neutering Cocker Spaniels. So you have to imagine my surprise 2 nights ago when I read the 4 issues that make up the mini-series Happy. And it was a fairly straightforward comic story without a whole lot of weirdness in it. Sure, there's a tiny blue unicorn helping a disgraced cop break up a child pornography ring, but at no point do any of the characters stop what they're doing and have a prolonged conversation with the reader about the concept that one is fictional and the other is real, but we may never know truly which is which. So Sack's in the comic. He's kind of like a pinch of Dwight from Sin City and a pinch of Marv from Sin City, sort of swirled together. And come to think of it, the whole vigilante vengeance story against a powerful but despicable people is a lot like a Frank Miller story from the pages of Sin City, only with a little blue flying talking unicorn. Also in the comic, Very Bad Santa's drug of choice is bath salts. So there you have it, folks. Your comic book connection for this week's show, brought to you by the makers of Robitussin, the only cough syrup that can literally make your dog trip his balls off.
Well, you know what they say, put a little tussin on it, even if you broke an arm. You know what I'm saying?
Soaked down to the bone.
Pregnant, put a little tussin on it. It's A-OK. That's how you solve these things.
We didn't have health insurance. We had Robitussin.
Indeed. I had not really known of the comic and everything, and like I haven't read the books, but I've seen a couple pages online, and man, oh man, what I've seen seems like a pretty straight adaptation. What do you say about that, Bruce?
It's 80 pages of comic, maybe slightly more. So it's really short source material for 8 hours of television. In theory, they may even have another season. So they have really bulked it up. They've added a whole lot to the characters and to the story to make it into Happy. But the first episode did follow pretty closely the events of the first issue of the comic. They just added to it. But they've really had to add a whole lot, a whole lot more of sort of complex subplots. There's a lot more nuance to the show. There's even like whatever the opposite of nuance is. There's big strokes that aren't in the comic because, it would be done in probably 2 episodes if they followed the comic straight. And I think it works good. I think that adding more to it makes it a better story.
Yeah, and I think you're right on the whole, the bath salts analogy, and a lot of that comes from, I think he's also executive producing and stuff, but he's directed several episodes and written and co-written several episodes with, Grant Morrison, is Brian Taylor of Neville Dean and Taylor fame.
Oh, is that who that is?
He's the other half, yeah.
Is he the showrunner for the show?
I forget what his full title is on the thing. I'll have to look at it real quick. But yeah, he's had a lot to do with this, and
there's definitely a guiding hand here that is keeping this show, really doing a good job keeping this show on a certain track from episode to episode. It's kind of impressive because with episodic television, you have to have multiple people at the helm for each episode, and the fact that it runs together and feels as coherent to me as it does is pretty impressive to me.
Yeah, he's listed as co-creator for the show and stuff, so and developed by. So yeah, he's pretty much the go-to on this thing. And I think that it shows from everything. And I'll be, if anyone's listened to the Film Find for any amount of time, they'll know that, as crazy and wacky and wild out as all the Neville Dean Taylor stuff, can be, I love that crap. It's crazy. It's everything is dialed to 11 all the time. Those are the guys, for those of you that don't know, that brought you like the Crank movies. They did the second Ghost Rider.
I mean, I think of them as lunatic cameramen more than anything else.
Oh yeah, these are the guys that would
get on rollerblades and get pulled behind a motorcycle to get the shot. And stuff
yeah,
like
what you're not seeing any other. Paul Thomas Anderson's not strapping himself to the back of a Viper and rollerblades and going 90 miles an hour down a road just to get a shot. It doesn't happen. But these cats do.
I'd like to see James Cameron doing that.
I'd love to see James Cameron just strapped to a pair of rollerblades and put on a rocket ship to. Anyways, that's another story for another time.
But I don't know. Maybe one of you guys can help me out. Maybe you can. Maybe you can, Adam. Maybe you can, Sean. But wasn't there a Star Trek movie where Doc Brown played a Klingon?
Yes.
Yeah, two. I think, two.
Okay. Because something about Christopher Maloney's performance in this show really reminds me of Klingon Doc Brown.
Maloney is the executive producer of the show, which explains a lot when it comes to what they get Chris Maloney to do. He's doing a whole lot in this show. If I could start, do you guys mind if I kind of hijack the show for a minute?
Dude.
Go ahead.
All right. So I didn't know anything about this. I didn't know that it was a comic book. I didn't know that there was a TV show. I didn't know any of this until 2 weeks ago when Bruce was like, hey, let's review Happy. It's this new show on SYFY. Let's watch 4 episodes, he said. So I did. I watched 4 episodes. It's great. It's great. It's well acted. It's well written. It's well directed. Everything about the show is incredible. With that being said, I am never going to watch the show again ever because it is the most depressing show we have ever watched on this podcast. It's not even close. Like the level of depression involved on this show, like you have to take a shower after you watch an episode. It's that bad. Like it's so depressing that you have to break it off in chunks. Like I watch TV. Like I don't watch much TV, but when I do, I sit down and I watch a ton of it at the same time. And so I watched all 4 episodes that we were required to watch for the show. And by the end of it, I was like, well, that show is great, and I'm never going to see it again ever. It's kind of like the only time I saw Leaving Las Vegas. Leaving Las Vegas is a great movie. Everything about that movie is terrific, and I'm never going to see that movie again ever. And that's how I feel about this show. The show is great, but it is so hard to watch at times, And I know that there's a lot of people involved with this show, but somebody is going through clinical depression as they've written these scripts. I mean, it's the only answer because it is the blackest black of humor you've ever witnessed, and maybe that's a selling point for a lot of people, but not for me. And so, look, like Maloney is incredible in this. The villain in this show is great. Like what a great super villain that they have here. But I'm never watching it again, ever.
Well, I don't know if it changes my perspective on it or something, but there was a significant stretch in my life where I fully expected to grow up to be exactly like Christopher Maloney's character here, or maybe a little closer to Billy Bob Thornton's character from Bad Santa. But I fully expected to be like one of these real troubled people as an adult. And
I thought you were going to say from Sling Blade for a second. I was like, that's an odd choice.
No, Willie from Bad Santa. But I really expected to be one of these miserable pieces of flesh when I grew up, and I'm glad I didn't. So sometimes I can enjoy watching maybe what might have been in the old Leslie verse, had a few balls bounced a different direction along the way.
See, I like hey, I got it bad, but I don't have it like that. So like it makes me feel better.
Without spoiling anything for a property that we're not talking about today, but just compared to the ending of The Mist, do you find this more depressing than that?
Oh,
Sean?
come on.
No.
Because that's the lowest moment I've ever had consuming either a movie or television show is The Mist.
No, The Mist, the end of The Mist is horrific. But The Mist also turns on a dime, Like this show is just filthy throughout, Like there's no joy, there's nothing. there's just misery on top of misery on top of misery. Like some of the, like even the visuals are awful, you know, and on purpose. Like they're great. They do an amazing job on this show. But oh my God, just even down to very bad Santa's costuming. You know,
it's dirty. Ugh.
It's like you can see the slime just dripping off of his Santa costume.
And here's the thing, that's a very Neville Dean and Taylor sort of thing, because the movies they shoot, like what I like to call it is the gorgeous ugly, because it is disgusting, it is depraved. When you see like in Gamer, where there was like the people that are at home playing the games and stuff are just like you can just feel the slime in the room. It's just disgusting. But there's something about that disgusting that can also just be like, wow, look at what somebody did. And it's I appreciate it.
Man, I called episode 1. I just sort of came up with a name for it. I called it The Hooker, The Hammer, The Hit, Haley, The Horse, and Smoothie.
Or by its initial title, Saint Nick.
But I think that kind of runs through all the high spots there on that first one. And I think there's a couple things worth talking about in episode 1 more than what we might break down in the rest. But the whole idea that this cold opening is a guy blowing off the top of his head, blood starts spurting through Matrix style while disco lights come on and people are dancing around him.
To Christmas music, no less. And honestly, had I known this had this much of a Christmas vibe to it, I would have put this in December.
Oh, yeah. I think it would have fit better in December. And the comic, of course, was Christmas themed just like this. But I think that was an excellent way of weeding out the people that you didn't want to complain about the show. Like, I mean, if you're around after that first 5 minutes, I think you're going to be cool with what follows.
Oh, for sure.
And it's so over the top, and like you know what you're getting from that get of go right there. It's just like, oh, so this is the program we're watching, right? Well,
and then it takes us to the hooker, earning a living. Earning a living with the guy in the lobster suit holding the hammer. That's almost frame for frame from the comic book there, the way that whole thing goes down. And man, it just, I guess it's that beautiful filth that you were talking about before. I mean, man, I'm actually feeling just the horrific nature of everyone's life involved in this scene. And I thought that worked pretty well. The nice way that Sax kind of steps in time to save the day. I mean, that really was storyboarded straight from the comics.
And I love how it's not even what he was doing. It's just like, it's just like, look, I just showed up early. I just, Yeah,
if I showed up on time, you'd be dead right now from a hammer. But did you guys get any of the Sin City grime feel from the show? I mean, it comes through pretty heavy in the comics, I think.
Yeah, it's a very hard-boiled kind of thing, and and again, I love film noir and that kind of stuff. And again, this is film noir on bath salts,
and especially in the comics more so than on the show. But I mean, Sax to me seems to be so obviously an amalgamation of Marv and Dwight's character, which is an interesting way to approach. Like, what if Marv and Dwight were the same person?
I never put that together before. I mean, it definitely has a Sin City vibe to it. I think that it's done better than the last Sin City. I mean, quite frankly.
Yeah.
But it's, in Sin City, I'm also not a massive fan of. Like, I like the first one just because it's so different than anything else that had been done before it. But the second one is just more of the same. And when you're not introducing anything new to the concept, then, whatever. But that is another thing with this show is that they give you a whole lot of stuff you've never seen before, which, I'm a fan of. I mean, that's great. Unfortunately, it all has to do with the deepest, darkest depression you've ever been a part of. But it is neat to see something you've never seen before.
How did you feel about Breaking Bad? I thought that probably had me feeling more depressed than this at times.
Well, but it would jump from thing to thing, like not every moment in Breaking Bad was awful, there's redemption for some characters, sometimes there's certain characters who, just want the best for humanity, I guess, for lack of a better term. Our main character in Breaking Bad is the one who, who's the bad guy by the end, but throughout it, there's humor and it's funny and characters flip back and forth on that show, With this show, like everybody is terrible. There's not a single redeeming person on this show.
I think Miss Hansen is the one like genuinely good person we meet.
I think Happy's like he's almost good incarnate in a way.
Yeah, you're probably right about that too. Happy is Hope. I mean, in the comic, Happy goes so far as to say I'm Hope. But Sax's ex-wife, Miss Hansen, I can't remember her first name now, but she seems to be like the one person who's has good in her and is actually doing something the right way to make things better.
Good point.
What about Smoothie though, man? What do you think? I mean, this is just so full. Like Smoothie is a character from the comics, but he's not fleshed out nearly as well as he is in the show. He's just sort of a torturer who has like New Age religion incorporated into the way he does torture. And the way they've taken him on this show, man, the performance from that actor is just wonderful. I love it. It just seems different from anything I've ever quite seen before. Smoothie does. And I was taken by him from the moment he first showed up in the hospital.
Yeah, Patrick Fleischer he's crazy.
Yeah, there's something about that actor that I really like. When he shows up on Breaking Bad, immediately, like, there's something off about him. Like, just the actor himself. Maybe not in real life, but at least on screen, where you're just like, wow, there's something going on with that guy. Kind of like the Russian guy in Ant-Man. You know, like who's one of Ant-Man's confidants. You know, who's in the van with T.I. That actor.
Oh, DeSmulchin.
Whenever he shows up in something, I immediately my eyes go to him because there's something about that guy where you're just like, that guy's off.
And him and DeSmulchin have a very particular look to them. That's not like, normal kind of Hollywood sort of look. I mean, it's very character actory.
And I can't help it, but I play this like alternative casting game in my mind sometimes, like involuntarily. And as soon as Smoothie entered, I started asking myself, what if Joaquin Phoenix had been Smoothie? And I kind of liked it.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
I think he could really get into this role.
I want to see those two play brothers now.
And man, I also love Blue, a really new take on like the mob boss or whatever. Something about his speech pattern, his line delivery, the way he overworks his lips. And
you know who he's doing? He's doing Robert De Niro. That whole thing is just like an overplayed like impression of Robert De Niro, and I haven't read that anywhere. That's just what I get by looking at it. I'm just like, oh, he's just doing like an overwrought De Niro.
I think he does. Bobby D does.
I love the fact that his wife is on a reality TV show,
and he's blurred in it.
So good, so good.
Is the Jerry Springer show still a thing?
No.
It can't be, right?
It isn't, I asked.
Because he looked a little out of practice, out of shape or something, but I did like the Jerry Springer fantasy sequences.
I'll tell you this much, that set had to be in cold storage because like there's no way they just recreated that well. Because that thing is just like that thing was solid, boy. That must have been like in like the museum of television or something. They were just like, let's just shoot over there, shall we?
So do you think Maury turned him down? Do you think they went to Maury Povich first?
No, Springer all the way. Come on. Listen, look at this show and tell me that does not scream Jerry Springer.
But the maternity or the paternity testing thing is Maury Povich's.
They did plenty of that. They did. Listen, Jerry Springer was on the air for like 30 years. Trust me, they did. You name it, they did it.
Including pay a prostitute with a personal check. But anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I like the Jerry Springer stuff. Did you guys like it? I like it too that they even did the more video type for that.
I was about to say what's great about it was they did the smart move of going to their camera style for that to where it looks like the more reality than actual, scripted drama that's on screen. I thought that was great.
It's cheaper too.
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed seeing Christopher Maloney under the harsh lights too. Like some makeup can do a lot for you, but some of that crazy look he just has.
And his hair just looks so much more fake under those lighting conditions.
Now, the whole Jerry Springer bit was not in the comic at all. Nothing about the reality show, the doing the paternity testing. And I really, really, really started to prickle a little bit. That it reminded me a lot of Nerd Spawn Genesis. With the Maury Povich show. Even
See, that's what
the
you
racial
just.
dynamic of the parentage and everything. I mean, it was just a little on the nose. Come on, Mr. Dean. At least give me $20 for it.
All he wants to sell is 5 copies on account of the show sold. You get a season 2, I get at least 10 copies sold. How about we call that evens?
I don't think we've talked about Patton Oswalt yet.
Now, Patton Oswalt was actually not the first choice to play Happy. That was actually to Horatio Sands was actually played Happy in the original pilot, but was then later redubbed by Patton Oswalt.
Now, I'm going to ask you a question. It wasn't Horatio Sands' decision to recast Patton Oswalt. Like they got picked up and they got more money and they went out and got Patton Oswalt.
Well, I
right?
don't think they go, Horatio, would you like to be recast? I don't think that ever works like that, Bruce.
But it's not like he got picked up and he said, "Bad news, I got to do a vacuum cleaner commercial. I'm out."
No. Like they were like, hey, who can sell this better?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, to say that Patton Oswalt wasn't their first choice, I think that's like saying, once they got picked up, they had more pull to get who they really wanted.
Perhaps. Well, I mean, maybe there's so many things that could come into play. You have no idea.
Would Patton Oswalt be your first choice?
Having not read the comic, it's tough to say because I think that when we all read comics, we have a voice in our head for somebody. I don't know that Patton would have been the first one to go there, but I mean, it seems to work more so than I actually thought it would.
You need that for this show specifically. You need that type of person who also hates super chipper people like Patton Oswalt clearly does. And so he's basically doing his impression, his angry impression of what, like the hosts of the Today Show sound like, like that sort of thing. Because my first reaction when you asked, Bruce, is who else would you cast as Happy, the voice of Happy? My first thought is Jack McBrayer. Because Jack McBrayer can do dumb and super happy.
Yep.
The guy
who Rock.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Fix It Felix Jr.
Yeah.
I love it because his character in 30 Rock went to Kentucky Mountain Bible College, which is in Breathitt County, Kentucky, where I grew up. But that's went in a weird direction.
Bruce, is that character based on you?
No, not at all. I did not go to that.
Did you play an NBC? Were you an NBC page?
For a day.
You've done everything but that, so you might as well. At this point, there's enough things that we come across that we're just like, you did what now? That I wouldn't be shocked.
To get back
to get more money out of CBS.
Sure.
But to get back to the original point here is that if you cast someone who just has a natural, pleasant demeanor, there's something off with the way this show is stylized. Because the way that Patton Oswalt is doing this voiceover for Happy it's literally like the most annoying voice that you can possibly have for this character. It's almost like what it reminds me of. So, go ahead.
I would have liked a more jarring juxtaposition. I mean, Patton Oswalt does a fine job, but I would have liked like Roger Rabbit. I would have really liked over-the-top cartoony voice performance.
I don't know. I feel like we kind of got that.
Well, I don't. I think actually going with a VO guy from a cartoon might have been a good move. Even Lee West type or something. Somebody who could really bring the cartoon to it would have been nice for me.
Oh, if only Patton Oswalt had ever done any previous animation before. Somebody that had some time behind the mic.
Done animation and convinced me that it was anybody other than Patton Oswalt's voice.
Hey, now that's fair. I'll give you that. That's a fair thing. But I will say this: he does.
John DiMaggio's out there. He does great work. Billy West is like the most famous, but I mean, there's plenty of folks out there that are like solid cartoon voice people. Tara Strong, who does Timmy from Fairly Odd Parents, as well as a ton of DC stuff. She would have done a good Happy.
But again, at the same time, you have to. This is all about a name, and Patton Oswalt would help sell this. I mean, as much as I love her, you can't put Tara Strong's name on a thing because regular folk don't know who that is.
I gotta say, I don't know Tara Strong. I don't know that name. And when you guys first said, "Hey, Patton Oswalt's the voice of," I think at the time you had said it was a donkey, Bruce. But
yeah,
I was like, well, that's definitely in its favor that Patton Oswalt's on the show and Chris Barlone's on the show. I'll definitely watch it.
And in my defense, come on, Happy looks way more like a donkey than a horse.
Yeah, but you just love donkeys too, though.
Exactly. It's the best of both worlds.
He's just like, and well, he does even call himself a horse. It's just like, you are a unicorn, bro.
With wings. He's an alicorn, if you're going to be technical.
Yeah, well, there you go. Hey, you got the horn, you got the wings, so, you're not just a horse. But I like that. He's also kind of just downplaying himself, going, you know what? I'm not special. I'm just a horse.
And I think Tara Strong does Applejack on My Little Pony Friendship is Magic, so her contract might forbid her from doing another horse. But anyway.
Listen, you can go out and do all the other voiceover actings that you want. You play another horse, that's your legs.
I'd like season 2 without any explanation. They just switch the roles between Maloney and Oswald.
Just a really hammered flying around.
Episode 2, we get to see that Smoothie is really good with this Officer McCarthy, the lady that's the former partner and home wrecker of Sax's life. We get to see Smoothie taking care of her mother, and there's something so sweet. Like, he genuinely seems to have a talent for taking care of this old lady, all the while just counting down to when he gets to torture her to death.
I like, just, he ends up putting her hands in that. Was that the one that she ended up putting the hands in liquid and all that weird stuff? What was that?
Yeah.
What was that about?
and I like it too, because when McCarthy, who we're going to have to talk about here in a minute, but when McCarthy comes home, he grabs her, takes her to the side, and goes, 20 minutes. That's how long it took me to get the knots out of her hair. When's the last time you brushed her hair? It was just weird how Smoothie really seemed to care about the woman he was sent there to potentially torture to death.
Hey, look, you ever try to brush hair knots out of hair? It's difficult. It's not good for you or the person who has to do it.
So, Sean, you have any thoughts on McCarthy?
Not really. To me, they have McCarthy in there for someone who keeps it their job. I mean, basically, I like the acting. It's not that I don't like the show. I think the show is great. I can't sit through 4 episodes of this again. But maybe one at a time, and then something awesome on the other side of it as a palate cleanser, maybe.
And I think the name kind of gives it away. But in the comic, I'm pretty sure McCarthy is either Irish or Scottish. But here, man, McCarthy just seems like a married name or something. Like, this lady seems Italian or something. Like, she doesn't really come across to me as Scottish or Irish.
No.
But I'm with you, man. I think she turns in a great performance, and she gives like that. Obviously, anybody working in Hollywood is more beautiful than your average person to ever get there. But she communicates this like real world pretty, like if you met her, a cop like that in real life, everybody's making constant comments about her, but she doesn't look like the sex pot cop on a lesser.
Right.
I'll completely agree with that. I like that as a choice of somebody who's kind of like, and not that she's not, but she's very real world pretty. And that sounds like a slam, but it's totally not. She's very attractive.
Honestly, it's like, I think they ugly her up a little bit for this role is what I'm trying to say in a polite way, which was pointless since I just came out and said it. So there it is. It's all
You're a piece of garbage, Bruce Leslie. We all know that.
How about the card game with Ladik?
I love that. I thought, again, now that's what it seems like that's something from a comic, but it's probably not, right?
It's from the comic, but it works a little bit differently. In the comic, once when they're in the hospital and Happy says there's 5 of them out there, and that's what convinces Sax that Happy is real to some degree. He says, so you can see things, but people can't see you. We're going to go play poker with this guy I don't like, and we're going to rip him off. So he goes there intentionally to use Happy to cheat at poker. So, it sort of happens accidentally in the show. It happens very intentionally in the comic book, but it all still ends up going down pretty much the same with the wedding band. Even the people sitting around the poker table look very much like their comic book counterparts, and then they try to hem him in, and then he ends up killing them all. I mean, it all goes down pretty close to the same. Cool.
Yeah, because I looked at that and I just go like, this feels very comic.
But at the end of the card game is when Happy convinces Sax to go save Haley. In the comic, it happens much later. One key difference in the show, Happy spills the beans to Sax that Haley is his daughter much earlier than he does in the comic. Because when that happens in the comic, that's when Sax decides to go back and rescue her. and it happens near the end of the story. So Grant Morrison even had an interview about why they thought it was important to bring that in sooner rather than later, and I think it works.
Yeah, I mean, it works for me, and I even like the idea of, like, you know, this thing knows where it came, in a sense, knows where it sort of came from in the general vicinity, and flew all the way out there to find him and stuff, and that was what was, you know, to bring back and all that stuff. And then it's just awesome because it becomes like a really kind of awkward and odd buddy cop thing. Because he's over here, he's translating for him, but because and I love it. I love the fact that he's translating Mandarin, because like him and like, you know, the horse and the girl took a Mandarin course over at the Y, so he knows it, but not really so much. So that makes that kind of thing fun.
I also like it when they go to the former police sketch artist, who now is kind of a crazy guy living on the streets doing caricatures, to get the sketch, and he describes Santa Claus. The sketch artist draws it for him and charges him $20. I love that. But then what I love even more is with a composite sketch of Santa Claus, he knows the right place to go is there has to be, like, this bar has to really exist somewhere, at least for the holidays. They go to the North Pole, which is a strip bar that caters to mall Santas.
What an awesome, stupid idea. I love it so much, because it's just like, this is like, only this kind of world is where something like this exists, and it's great.
And he gets to meet who I think it's fair to call, even though it may not scientifically be accurate for the purposes of this show, it's fair to call her the world's oldest stripper.
Hello there, darling.
It's good to see Brenda Vaccaro still getting work, you know? But that lady tells him about the deranged gimbal Santa, and, you know, somehow figures out it must be that guy's son who's the very bad Santa in this show. I really enjoy the time we get to spend with that crazy old stripper lady talking about Santa Claus in the past. And then we also get the backstory about the man who microwaved his baby, which is totally not from the comics whatsoever. And that is, I'll have to agree with Sean on that. I think that's the low point.
Oh,
of the
my
show.
gosh. And tell me that doesn't feel like Grant Morrison, Mark Miller kind of like, hey, watch this. Watch how I'm going to just, you know, throw you for a loop.
And I also can't explain the bizarre, like, pure satisfaction I got from that reenactment of the Shining furry scene.
Oh, it was great. It was great. Why was that just like, I loved it, because it was just so out of left field, and it's like, hey.
And then she pulls off her mask, and it's like in all of Happy's version of New York, apparently there's only one working girl, and she's working a lot and in some weird ways.
Then there's like a whole thing where stuff is going on in the back room with like 8 billion of them. I'm telling you, this whole show is very trippy, and you're just like, what is in the background over there? What's going on?
And Sax's ex-wife is working with McCarthy, talking to some of the other parents who've had missing children, and they go to this one house that hasn't received a card yet. And man, I wish I knew her first name, but Miss Hanson actually goes up and finds the girl hiding in the attic. That was one of those like messed up real world things. Like that in and of itself could be like a whole premise for a show or a movie. Like that little moment that happens there with the girl hiding up in the attic. I thought that was a creepy, wonderful touch.
I like the creepy family that's just like, you know, that says, these were the last songs that we were playing when our little girl was taken. And they just start singing. I'm just like, what kind of Twin Peaks stuff is this? Y'all got to get out of the house now.
There's some serious Munchausen by proxy going on there.
Just leave. Just get out. The killer is inside the house.
And then at the end of that episode 3, Sax is actually attacked outside of the North Pole by the very bad Santa, who reveals he can see Happy. And he also seems to be super strong, and he does some weird psychological, psychic kind of thing where he makes Haley eat cake, and then she shows him where Sax is at. You know, they really give us some suggestion that the very bad Santa is like a supernatural being here.
Very cool. I mean, like, and again, it's one of these things where this show is so far left field that you don't know what any of it is, where it's coming from, because there are so many programs. And hey, we review superhero movies and TV shows. We can look at something from afar and just go like, here's A, here's B, here's C, and we're out. And
don't forget also that the very bad Santa, because we haven't even mentioned this yet, he has the ability to sound like a child.
Oh, right.
And the way they're dealing with Very Bad Santa in this show feels way more like a Grant Morrison comic than the actual comic the show is based on. And I know that Grant Morrison was involved very heavily with the show, and I can't help but feel like he suggested some of these touches for things he maybe wished he'd touched on the comics, because he's had 4 or 5 more years to go further nuts between writing the comic and working on this show.
I like that idea when they can do things like that.
Here's what I think. I think that, and I don't know this for certain, but I would bet money on it, that the minute that writer's room learned, the other writers in that writer's room learned that there's one-upsmanship happening on the show, like Grant Morrison has some weird ass idea, and the other writers are like, you know what? We can top you. And so that's what keeps happening, is that there's like this like crazy ideas, one-upsmanship, and it just keeps going back and forth, and that's how you get this show.
A bit of the old, oh yeah?
When you try to one-up Grant Morrison at his own game, you become Gerard Way, and I've read his comics, and they're not good.
Yeah.
I disagree, man. I love the first 2 trades of Umbrella Academy. I love that.
Yeah, but you haven't read the Doom Patrol, where, Doom Patrol was brought to new heights by Grant Morrison when Young Animal launched and Gerard Way started writing those. He just tried too hard to out Grant Morrison, in my opinion.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
that's
of course, my daughter's favorite band is My Chemical Romance, so we have to argue over Gerard Way's writing abilities.
Oh, that stinks.
No, it's look at the kid. He comes over there with the hair and whatnot. That bleach has gotten into his skull. Done rotted him rotten. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I do like that Very Bad Santa tries to eat Happy, and Happy, causes him to throw up a fortune cookie wrapper. I like a guy that's just got to get that cookie. He doesn't even have time to break it and pull out the fortune. He just throws the whole cookie in there, and something about his stomach acid can digest the cookie, but doesn't do a thing to the paper.
That's great.
Again, the writer's room. They were like, we got it. we got it. In episode 4, when they go back to Chinatown, I feel like there's some love for Jack Nicholson's oeuvre coming up here, because we got The Shining in episode 3. Then I don't know how many times he says it's Chinatown in episode 4, just to make sure we got it. Just in case we didn't get it the first 3 times, he goes ahead and says it a 4th time.
But I love how, because we all know how fortune cookies are made. We've all had a fortune cookie that said the same thing as a fortune cookie from previous. But I love the lore that this place says, hey, we do fortune cookies. Every single one of them is different. We have records of all of them, where they all go, and it's so, I love that so much, because it's just so stupidly not a thing that could happen. I love it.
And I know, I love the way she steps up to him. I'm not afraid of a skeptic, and then goes into it. I love it. There's like a Pixar movie buried in there somewhere about the fortune cookie company that makes sure that the right fortune gets to the right kid at the right time.
And I love how he tries to just go to soft pedal it, and then just absolutely berates her. It's in just the most, it's so awesome that I can't repeat any of it on this show, but it's so good.
I do love
not as good as when he ate still living fish, but close.
Yes. I do love how much he hates Chinatown. I do like that part. I will say. What a nice thing. I don't want to be here. I hate this place. What a great little touch.
Stupid overblown tourist trap.
The flashback montage of all the bad things that happen, and there's the massage parlor where he goes, "You're a dude, aren't you?"
I don't care. Just shrugs it off. I don't care. Whatever.
And I love that the triad are trying to track him down while he's there. Bring a little bit of that into it. It's fun.
And again, it's just this is from having one half of Neville Dean Taylor in there for fight scenes and stuff. That they laid down an edict that said, "Hey, man, here's how all this crazy stuff's going to go down. It's going to be super kinetic, super fast, and it's just going to exude cool."
And I love it when the final triad guy is facing off with his nunchucks, and he's like, "Oh, you're going to hit me with those little sticks," and he whacks him upside the head, and he goes, "Ow, that hurts." Just unfolds. And the best use of Deus Ex Machina in a long time I've ever seen is when he has no way to defeat this final nunchuck guy, so a truck hits him.
It's great.
Oh, and then the reality show comes into it. And I get the idea that Mr. Dean, the showrunner of this show, doesn't have a high opinion of reality shows.
Well, no, I mean, first of all, I love the opening of that reality show and everything, because now I don't watch any of these programs, but from what little tiny bits that I've seen, oh my gosh, does this seem accurate? It's just like where they're going through and
my
they're
worst enemy, who by the way is Isabella.
they're going through the way that they're addressing the camera, how everything is shot. It's so just dead to rights with how all this garbage is shown on TV. And, look, I love taking it out of these programs because I think they're well, deserved of it.
Have you been around reality shows much, Sean?
I haven't, actually. Every time that they've been close by, I was working on something else, so I never even got the offer. And the truth of the matter is that they lowball.
They filmed a reality show called Resident Life at Vanderbilt University when I was a resident, and one of the guys from my department was chosen to be one of the featured people on the reality show. So I was scrubbing into a surgery with him at least once when the whole camera crew was around outside the OR and around this kid who's just had some kind of horrible accident that's damaged his face for life, and the cameras are everywhere asking Justin, who's the guy who was featured, like what he thought about it. It just seemed very real, like with the cameras in the morgue and stuff. I thought that was exactly how intrusive they felt around the operating rooms at Vanderbilt, and that was 13, 14 years ago. So I could imagine they've only gotten worse since then.
Well, I can tell you this, television people are as heartless as this crew is.
Yeah.
It's just looking, it's like, all right, there you go. I mean, because even when I was working, that's not reality TV, but it is in a sense, which was news. I mean, there was a time where, and when I left it, the second time that I left news, I got to a point where I literally was laughing at a joke about a dead person. I'm like, "Ooh, that's not good." And then another time where I was like, I probably could come across a dead body lying in the street, and I'd be like, how about that? Because it desensitizes the crap out of you. So, but it's it's not for nothing that there's some realistic stuff there.
And I don't think ever showed up on camera or anything, but having that camera crew around the department and around the hospital for about 3 months did get pretty darn old by the end of that summer. And it just, this felt very genuine to me.
Did you ever kind of look at it and be like, I'm the next George Clooney, right? And just kind of.
No, man. I tried to do a psychic plug for a podcast I would have 15 years later, but.
It's not. It's broken, Daddy. It's broken.
The best part about that whole show is that the theme song was from They Might Be Giants, who I absolutely love. So that was the best part of that reality show.
But we do find that, at the end of these 4 episodes, that Very Bad Santa here, he's got a whole crew of kids.
Yeah, he does have a whole crew of kids, and also there's this bug guy who seems to be into really bizarre pornography that has an interest in these kids, and that's very worrisome to me.
I love the weird giant bug, and no one talks about it. Is this a bug? Is this a guy in a suit? Is it both? We don't. It's just called Shut Up, and that's what it is. It's so bizarre and stupid.
Mr. Bug is like somebody's deranged imaginary friend. Like he's the evil Happy.
He's got the TV. He's all ready to go. He's got a presentation. He's got his little lines. What happens when a bug? What do bugs love more than anything else? The darkness.
But I do like it when McCarthy and Sachs arrive separately at the warehouse just as the kids are being taken away in that big box truck, which I start to wonder, man, how does Very Bad Santa have all these resources? I guess Mr. Bug is bankrolling him because, not only does he have everything he needs, but he has the disgusting version. He's very much like a comic book villain in his theme of just grotesque. But I do like it, though. McCarthy and Sachs show up at the same time, and she stabs him in the leg with a pair of scissors. And for some reason, I think it's hilarious whenever somebody yells out something like, "You stabbed my good leg."
That's my good leg. I love it. It just falls over.
I like the implication that she'd stab the other leg.
It'd have been fine. But she got the good one. But yeah, here's the thing. Sean, you're absolutely not wrong about this show. It is dark. It is depraved. It is over the top, and I like it.
No, look, man, I get it. And I understand why everyone would be on board with the show. I really do. Well, it's just not my jam.
If it ends like the comic, following it through to the end will be very satisfying to see the bad guys get their comeuppance.
Well, little do you know there, Brucey, they already have signed on and greenlit a season 2. So ratings, I guess, were good enough to where they were like, hey, we're going to come back and do some more over here on SYFY. And I'll say this, holy cow. I don't know what I was watching and how different it was from actual broadcasts, but man, oh man, they can get away with whatever they want over there on the SYFY. Am I wrong?
No kidding, man.
Holy smokes.
It was full TVMA when I watched it.
Do not let your children watch this, boy. I mean, there's really, unless it's like a fun thing inside of a show within the show, there's no bleeping of anything. it's hardcore. So keep the kids away from this one.
They don't label it TVMA either. When it comes on, they label it TV WTF.
I would say that would belong in this category. I'll tell you that much, because it is just like,
for sure.
Wow, they get away with this on network, or extended cable rather. But whew, good gravy.
SYFY does, man.
Well, now before we get to, I listen. Sean may not want to do it, but at some point I do want to review the last 4 episodes because, frankly, I want to watch them.
Look, man, I know we're going to, and that's fine. We can watch the rest of it. But I just got to space it out.
We'll give you a little time. We'll stretch out a little bit. We'll
at least 2 weeks.
We got at least 2 weeks for you, so no worries. But before we go and do all that again, before we journey down that dark, dank hole that one might never escape from, we have to go towards the light, aka we have to figure out how this television program relates to Sylvester Stallone.
Why, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Richie Coster plays the head of the mob in Happy, a bad guy named Francisco Scaramucci. But then again, Richie Coster always plays the bad guy in every movie he's in. He's British, 50 years old, and he was born on July 1st, which coincidentally is also the birth date for someone named Sean Patrick Keenan. To make the show even more about me, the best friend growing up that I'm McEwen. And he was born also on the exact same day, July 1st. We met in kindergarten, instantly became best friends. We had combined birthday parties. Tommy McEwen's mom and my mom would get together. She'd pay for one activity, my mom another. And we'd have this sort of super birthday party. We'd invite 8 kids apiece. And if you went to Highland Park Elementary and you weren't invited to Tommy and Sean's birthday, then very simply, you weren't cool. We'd go bowling and then go see a New Britain Red Sox game, mini golf, and then the St. James Carnival. This was the law of Highland Park Elementary. Then one day, Tommy McEwen pulls a power move, decides he's way cooler than me. He doesn't want to be best friends anymore. 5th grade, we're not best friends anymore. Now, we have separate birthday parties now. It becomes a thing. Tommy starts making it his life's mission to prove to the world he's way cooler than me. His first question, who's going to have the cooler birthday party? He makes people choose sides. People have to decide whether they'd rather go to Tommy's pool party, which was both boys and girls, by the way, or my Star Wars themed birthday party in my backyard where both boys and girls were invited. But oddly, only boys showed up. Tommy's power move totally worked and proved beyond a shadow of a doubt he was way more awesome than me. We ended up going to different high schools. I went to the public high school. Tommy went to a fancy pants private boarding school. Made everyone start calling him Tom. Went to college. Now works as the manager of a warehouse in a town close to where we grew up. We stay in touch every couple of years. Since high school, I've been on national television, ran a successful comedy club for 8 years, a successful comedy group for damn near 20. I've had 2 girls that both went to college, own a house, have residence in 2 different cities, have a smoking hot fiance. I've worked in the movie business for 20 years. I've won 2 Emmys for Best Production Design and Art Direction. I've met some of the most famous people in the world, and Tommy's still pulling power moves. The last time I saw him, he actually comes up to me and he says, "Hey, we were all pretty sure you're going to have to move back home with your folks when you move to Charlotte. Good job." Still making power moves, that guy. Thanks for setting the bar so low, Tommy. Richie Coster plays the role of Richie Sparino in Creed, which also stars a man who has played the role of Rocky 7 different times, and he's about to make it 8, Sylvester Stallone. So there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone connection. What's his name in Human Computer? let's review the first 4 episodes of Happy so we can all brace ourselves for Adam Portrais' review of Black Panther, which is sure to surprise since literally the entire rest of the world is in love with Black Panther.
Why, Sean, do you figure me to be some sort of contrarian?
I do indeed.
Well, we shall most certainly see. But until then, Bruce, we're not going to give an official Robin ratings just yet because we haven't had the full season. But what are your thoughts on the first 4 episodes, and specifically you because you've read them? How do you think they compare up to the comics? Good, better, worse? What do you think?
I think it's better than the comics, and the comics are good. The acting performances are wonderful across the board. Like I said before, the consistency from episode to episode is just remarkable. Especially, like I said, when I know that multiple directors, multiple writers are needed for episodic television, it really feels like one person did it all and did it well. It looks great to me. And when I say it looks great, I mean the cinematography, the lighting, the production design, the wardrobe. I love it all. I think this show strikes me the way Legion took hold of Sean. Legion made me feel real uncomfortable at times dealing with things the way it did, Sean.
No, I get it.
So I think this grabs me the way Legion grabbed you. Without giving my regular rating just yet, I am going to say I recommend these 4 episodes highly. I think they're better than the source material. I wish we had done the Happy Cast the way we do Preacher Podcast, to be honest. This show is way better than any of the other stuff I've watched on SYFY. Better than what I think SYFY has a right to.
Whoa, even better than those Dean Cain movies? You may be wrong on that one, my friend. Keenan?
Look, here is a possibility in the next couple of years, is that Grant Morrison becomes big time. Like he starts big time in it. Now he signs a production deal. There's a first right look to something like Universal. His smaller stuff starts making it to television or in movies. We could be 5 years away from a Flex Mentallo movie.
Warner Brothers has the rights to that.
Wow, I would not be surprised.
Doom
Patrol.
Yeah.
Wow. Anyway, look, you guys know my thoughts on this show. It's great. It's well acted, well directed. Everything about it is great. And Bruce, you had a really great point that it really feels like one person is writing this show. Which is so rare especially for a show like this. It's really terrific. But it's hard to watch. It's hard for me to watch.
And just promise me something, Sean. Yeah. You and I will do the Flex Mentallo podcast when that show gets made.
Man, are you kidding me? I would be all on board for it. The thing that you know how you are with Alan Moore. I'm not that level of love for Grant Morrison because sometimes he has things like Flex Mentallo. But I do like when he's good, he's great,
Yeah.
I love his run on JLA. I know it's really, really maligned, but I like a lot of the stuff he did for X-Men. And a bunch of other things, I think he's
Negasonic Teenage Warhead, Grant Morrison.
Man, it just such crazy mutants.
And for every one of those, he also gave you a what do you call it there? Beast turns into a kitty cat.
Well, yeah, man. I mean, they're not all going to be humdingers, They're not all 5-star.
It happens.
But you're going to get a kitty cat from time to time. You're also going to name 2 characters the same name, which is amazing. Anyway, so there are people who this could very well be their favorite show if they watch it. People who have this sensibility are going to love this show. It's just not my jam.
Yeah, I'll say this, man. If you're like 16 or 17, this definitely would be like your favorite show. And the fact that something like this is on television, could you imagine something like this being on television when you're like 16, 17 years old? It'd have blown your mind.
No, thank you. Sure. I had a little show called Growing Pains at that age.
It's almost like we're watching the same program. Who knew?
It got pretty dark.
It did. It got, you know, when little Leonardo DiCaprio's daddy was drinking and stuff and beating him up. Those things happen. That's why he ran away from that family. Why do I know these things?
The channel to Mr. Belvedere when that happened.
Oh God, I love. Listen, growing pains can take a back seat. I'm Mr. Belvedere all day long, baby. Let me tell you something. Love.
To this day, I still drop kick my jacket when I walk in the door.
Drop kick my jacket,
and still no one cares.
Everyone like under the age of 30 is like, what in the hell? What is this show? Anyways, I would recommend this. I think it's good. It's a very beautiful ugly, and I think we're gonna get a situation here when we watch these last 4 episodes. We're gonna have what we had with Legion, where Bruce was kind of so-so at the start. Come around those second half, he was all on board. We'll give Sean a little time to decompress, take a shower, freshen up a little bit, get a little bit of the Johnsons & Johnsons, and maybe he'll just be A-okay after this. We'll see. But we'll give that some time. But in the meantime, everybody, what's happening next week? That's right. Black Panther. And as Sean said, everyone likes it. Will Adam like it? I think I will, because frankly, I think I have a pretty good record of liking Marvel movies, and I'm at this point where I go, hey man, it's going to be tough for them to do wrong, but everybody is digging it. The soundtrack's like the #1 thing on iTunes right now, so people are digging that even. So it's a big deal, dude. So we'll be coming back next week to cover Black Panther. In the meantime, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet, sir?
Hey, I'm still telling people about Nerd Spawn Genesis. It got a new review from a gentleman named Phil, a 5-star review. He called it an awesome book. He said he highly recommends it to anyone. He said, I found this book by listening to his podcasts, and I was not disappointed. This is a fast-paced read full of comedy. Once I started, I couldn't put it down. I'll certainly be recommending this to my friends, so thank you, Philip. Other folks can get their own copy of Nerd Spawn Genesis from Amazon. It's available as ebook, paperback. The audiobook is in pre-production. It's the only Nerd Spawn on Amazon, and if I understand correctly, it might be the best book Sean Keenan ever read this past weekend.
I was on the plane, and it was the best book I read on that plane, for sure.
Awesome.
Another.
Take that, Skyfall.
When you're not reading books on planes, Sean, what else are you doing?
I work on TV shows and movies, and I have some movies that are getting critical acclaim. One of them is American Animals. Watch out for it. It's a really good movie, and check it out. And you can reach me on Twitter at HeroMovieSean.
The Film Find has been on a little bit of hiatus. As I'm here in Atlanta, Matt is no longer around right now. He's off doing his own little thing, so I'm here by myself.
So, hold on. You get to Atlanta and both Matt and Sean leave.
Isn't that weird? It's almost like no one wants to be around me. Sometimes the world can't blame you. But we do have a film find that will take place. We're gonna have a special guest on this week, so check that out. It should be dropping probably Tuesday or Wednesday, so do check that out at thefilmfind.com. You can also catch me just kind of bumming around Atlanta, trying to figure out what's what and where things are. And if you live here, buy me a beer or something. I don't know. It's just making me feel better about myself. So that is it, everybody. Join us next week for our review of Black Panther. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Hello world, hear the song that we're singing. Come on, get happy. A whole lot of loving is what we'll be bringing. We'll make you happy. We had a dream, we'd go traveling together. We'd spread a little love and then we'll keep moving on. Something always happens whenever we're together. We get a happy feeling when we're singing a song. Traveling along, there's a song that we're singing. Come on, get happy. A whole lot of loving is what